Welcome back to the Weekend Warrior Show Recap Podcast. I'm Tyler from the Unemployed Architects. This week I'm going to be talking about our 3 shows down in Champaign this last weekend. Friday night we played at Legends Golf Course full band. Saturday we had a private party during the day, and then we played at Poor Brothers at nighttime. So all these shows were outside, and we were all a little iffy weather-wise. I was watching the weather all week, and it looked like it was supposed to rain at pretty much every one of them, but somehow it worked out that the rain missed all the shows and they all were outside. So all of them had rain locations, so it wouldn't have been a huge deal if they got canceled or the outside part of it got canceled. But, playing outside is just a lot more fun than playing inside. And some of these places probably would have been a little bit on the small side if we would have had to end up and play inside. But it all worked out great. So Legends Golf Course, Friday night, we played full band, like I mentioned, which was our first full band show in a really long time. And I got the guys to come. It was the highest paying show I think we've ever had as a full band. So it wasn't a hard sell to get everybody out. But so the event, it was an event that you could pay like $15 and hit as many golf balls at the driving range as you would want, as anyone could ever want. They just had buckets and buckets of free balls to hit, and they were releasing some beer, some craft beer, I think, or something. So, but yeah, they sold 150 pre-sale tickets. So, I mean, it was pretty busy, I would say. It was kind of an interesting show, just in the fact that we were kind of set up in the corner, and then everybody was kind of out in the field hitting balls. So it wasn't like everybody was like up on us, like listening and being super engaged with what we were doing necessarily. But the feedback we got was all positive. It was just, and it was kind of early. So it was like we ended up and played like 5:30 to 9. But so, I mean, I don't feel like that really gave people a chance to maybe get drunk enough to start getting really into it, even though, like I said, we did get a lot of positive feedback. The crowd was just kind of far away because the golf course was pretty huge, but like I said, I thought they dug it. And Blair and Kev both seemed like a really good time, which that's always fun for me to have them both there and be not having a bad time. They're into it, having fun. I don't feel like I really caught my groove necessarily, just because maybe I'm not used to playing in that setup as much, but couldn't really find my voice necessarily for the first part of it. I mean, I sang fine. It was just like a lot of extra thinking, and I really wore myself out at the end. There was a couple times my knees buckled, thought I might pass out, but and that was, again, towards the end, but I mean, there were definitely high moments for sure, and it was just a good show all around. So we ended up and decided to get an Airbnb that night. Blair and Kev just played the first one, so it was just Lo and Dave that stayed at the Airbnb in Champaign. And, of course, we fell asleep too late, and we had the show. The first show the next day was the private party, and it's kind of always an interesting thing doing something like that because it's like an afternoon show, so it's the same type of thing like I was saying with people not really getting drunk enough. And this was a weird one because these people that hired us didn't really know us that well. They didn't really know our music, so I mean they probably looked us up a little bit, but before they hired us, but. It wasn't like a buddy of ours or somebody who had seen us live a bunch of times, so they didn't really know what to expect. I didn't do foot drums in this either. It was a little early in the day and kind of, like barbecue type feel, like cookout type feel, so I didn't want to be like killing anybody with the volume. But, and like I was saying, it's just kind of a weird, because you're trying to kind of win the crowd over and to make them think that, they hiring you was a good idea, I guess. So, I end up and played a lot of covers at the beginning part. And, it's an afternoon show, so my voice was a little bit on the rough side. I felt like sounded okay. I feel like Lo sounded really good. even though her voice was, a little rough as well. But when her solo song, she sounded really good. Same for on Friday night. Her solo songs I felt like were really good. But anyway, so it was just her, Dave, and I, kind of laid back. Had to win them over. This was actually a buddy of ours, friend in Champaign, essentially. So Brian knew this guy that needed a band, and Brian actually hooked us up, I think, with the Legend shows the night before. So he's kind of legend status, I think, for getting the good word out about us and, getting our name out there, because he's always posting stuff and sharing stuff of ours, and so we owe him a lot, really. But anyway, so I felt like by the end we definitely won him over. We got lots of compliments, lots of tips, and so I ended up and was able to do more original music. So that was cool, and I feel like I definitely gained some fans out of it. So that was the Saturday afternoon, and we had some time to kill. I ended up, and somehow I was missing some cables for this show. So I just noticed I was missing them from the previous night, so I don't really know where they all went. Maybe Blair ended up with maybe one of them or two of them. He said he didn't, but who knows? Maybe Kev ended up with a few of them, or maybe I just lost them. I don't really know. But so I ended up and went to Guitar Center, pick up a couple extra cables, and it was just kind of nice. I hadn't really been to Guitar Center in a really long time since I work at Kidder Music in Bloomington. I'm at a music store like all the time, so I never really need to go to different ones, but it is nice to kind of go to some different ones. And then we headed over to Poor Brothers for our night show there. And I was under the impression that I was doing my own sound, but we got there, and there was a sound guy with all his own gear. So that was a little bit of a relief, really, because, it takes so much to set up for it was not a full band, but it's pretty close. So he had been there already setting some stuff up, so that was good. And it just really took a lot of the stress off me, because I still had to restring a guitar for the show. And I don't know, it was just good. Made me a little bit less stressed out about the show. But anyway, so I still probably set up too much stuff, and it was kind of wet when we got there. Like, it had been raining like in between the shows. So it was like the first show that day, didn't rain, got everything tore down. By the time we left the surprise party, it was sprinkling, and then it like poured, and then it like cleared up before we got to the next place. So the stage was all wet, and I feel like it made the sound guy kind of postpone setting some stuff up. But anyway, brought too much stuff. Definitely did the foot drums that night. It was, it ended up, and it was a pretty good crowd right at the beginning, and it wasn't packed or anything, but it was, there was a good amount of people there. I did a lot more originals at the beginning this time, because I felt like it was more that type of show. And as my voice kind of wore down a little bit, I started to lean on the covers more. But, I got a lot of originals out in those first couple sets. We actually had, it's a friend of Dave, I think his name's Nick, was a drummer for the band Flaccid, which is a local band here in town that doesn't play anymore together. But anyway, he came out and he helped us some percussion stuff. So there were times that we had 3 percussion players, 1 guitar, and 2 vocals. So it was pretty intense in that front. But my voice felt pretty good. It's always weird singing through a different sound system if you're not really used to it. So it took me a little bit to get used to, but after we got going, I don't know, I was feeling pretty good. I feel like we put on a pretty top-notch show as far as our shows go. I feel like it was high energy like the whole time, and I was picking the right songs. And like towards the end, it always gets to a point where people are either ready to leave or they're ready to stay long and have a few more drinks. And what I end up and do a lot of times is I do our medley around that time and try to get people kind of interacting with the songs, singing along and stuff. And I think I did that at like the exact right point, because a lot of people that seemed like they might get up and leave soon ended up staying and, singing along and requesting encores. I think we played an extra half hour. We were only supposed to play till 11:30, and we played till at least midnight. And the songs that we were picking just kept going over well. I definitely overdid it. We only took one break, which was probably a mistake. But it's the last show of a 3-show weekend, and the last part of it's always the most fun if my voice is working. So it seemed to be working just fine with all the singing I had already done. And so, I was having a good time. I felt like it was high energy. I was trying to be interactive with the crowd. I had a couple misses with that, I think, in the first part, but eventually I kind of, I won over them a little bit, and I got them singing along, because I was trying to get them to sing along the first part of the medley, and it just wasn't really working necessarily. But by the end, I was getting everybody to belt some things out, which was cool. And I don't think it was my best performance by any means, but I feel like the crowd had like a really good time, and that's ultimately where you want to leave them, I feel like, because then I think they'll kind of remember that night, There's like, oh, remember that time we saw the Unemployed Architects, and everybody was up and dancing and singing along. And I think that's definitely, one of my goals. Obviously, I want to have the best time myself as possible, and I came, 90% there. I was, feeling pretty good. I probably wore myself out a little bit too much. I was breathing heavy, over breathing for sure, because I was just like, after I think about halfway through, we pretty much only played kind of more up-tempo songs. We didn't really slow it down. And then we had all the percussion and stuff. But anyway, it was a good show. I think I was a little worried because we had 2 other Champaign shows, and I thought maybe that would hurt our draw a little bit, but it really didn't. It was like every show we played was pretty busy. So yeah, it was a good all-around weekend. I think it was one of my favorites in a while. I'm definitely feeling I had 14 shows booked this week, or this month rather, and I'm feeling it a little bit because I'm only about halfway through. I got 3 shows this next week coming up, and then 3 shows the following week coming up. So after I get through those 2 weeks, I feel like I will, be a little bit more relaxed. I've been having my Thursdays off, not teaching. I moved all my lessons so that way I can have like a full day to kind of recover from work and get kind of gear up for the shows. So that was nice this last weekend, and this weekend I'm off as well. I might do some recording, but it's been nice with playing more, because I still practice at like 3-4 days a week, but I don't necessarily feel like I need to be as focused with my practice. I can kind of just play to have fun. Got a couple new songs I've been writing, which is nice. One of them I wrote like all in one setting, but I couldn't really. It was just like lyrics. I didn't have any music to it, so I feel like I finally found the instrumental that it goes to. Kind of a folky song, very, very much, focus on the lyrics, but the guitar's pretty simple, but I just couldn't really line it up with anything, and I eventually, I think last week, kind of started setting it to some music I'd been working on, and it just like fit right perfectly. And when that happens, it's like, putting that last piece of the puzzle together, and then you kind of have the picture. I still got to practice it a million times to kind of get it up to snuff as far as playing it live, but it's just exciting to, have a new song. And then there's another one that I had all the pieces for, but I haven't really been able to play it as like one piece of music, so I've been really working on that to make it like playable out at shows. So pretty excited about that stuff. And this next week I have, let's see, Friday I play at Houdini's again in Leroy. Saturday I'm playing 2 shows. The afternoon one is the Summer Shindig in Pontiac, which I'm kind of kicking it off, I guess. Kind of weird. They haven't really promoted it starting as at 4, but I play at 2:30 to 4. So, and they haven't really said anything about me playing about there, but the guy that booked it says, yeah, I'm for sure good. But it just seems a little strange, but I think he just wanted us to play regardless. We'd kick it off a little early because I couldn't really play later because we got Kemp's Upper Tap that night, and that's kind of an earlier show, like 6 to 8. So Kemp's is always fun. It's out in their little beer garden, so, if 10 people are there, it'll feel super packed. But anyway, so that's what I'll be talking about next week. I've been working on a new music video for the last single we released. I had like an epiphany kind of about what I'm going to try to do with it at the Airbnb. I was watching some nature documentaries, kind of gave me some ideas for the video. So I'll be interested to see kind of how that turns out. And I'm probably going to try to re-edit a video from Weft when we played on the radio and get another one of those out pretty soon. So, and then I set up some recording time with Eclipse, and I'm trying to set up some with our buddy Jeff, who we kind of started a song a while back on. So hopefully we can get some headway on that stuff. But anyway, so that's probably what I'll be talking about next week. As always, thanks for listening. Have a good rest of your week.